Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. I am Jamie, and with me, as always, is
Data,
Jack,
and Joe.
And this week we are covering Mistborn Book 3, The Hero of Ages, chapters 8, 9, 10, and 11, wherein Vin and Elend expose a village of people to the mists. Then they, along with Sazed and Breeze, meet up with Damu and Elend's army. Sazed and Vin have a heart-to-heart, and TenSoon faces the judgment in the Trust Warren. So hold on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
As the towers of steel and stone crumble to dust, the foundations of our hope begin to rust. Choking fear, screaming sound, as a reaper comes to ground. You turn to face it down because you must. And when the world starts to burn, at the point of no return, keep a hold of your conviction, tear out the affliction, before the world turns black. Stand up and take it back.
So yeah, we got a couple of TenSoon bits here, and everybody else kind of getting back together. What did you guys think of these 4 chapters?
I am really enjoying the TenSoon chapters. I was really glad that we got 2 of those. After reading the end of the first one, I was like, oh no, we're gonna have to wait till next week till we hear more of that, but we didn't, which was awesome. I thought it was really interesting about the method of inoculating people against the mist. I think that's a new piece of information that sort of once you've been exposed, you're all good. Interesting as well. And Sazed and Breeze's interactions, I think, are fantastic. I was a little bit disappointed that Orianne showed back up and contributed no substance to the story as expected, but yeah, I really enjoyed reading these chapters. I think there's a lot of really cool information, and I'm just really pleased that, we haven't, or in my view, reading the start of this book, there's not really been any slow bits or any bits that I'm like, oh, come on, keep going, let's get to the next thing. So I'm actually really enjoying it.
Yeah, Orianne shows up again, so everyone's happy to see her, and we're on track for whoever's theory it was that she was the hero of ages. Coming right down the pipe. So
I said that in jest, sir.
Nope, it's a new thing. Jack predicts. I'm gonna put it as a headline.
Oh my god. I'm the guy who predicted volcanoes for Adium, and even I think that's too far. But no, I like these chapters. I agree. I think the pacing in these ones is going really well. It's like there's always something new and interesting in each chapter. I think my favorite part this week, aside from the TenSoon stuff, because I agree, that's the highlight so far, but I love the conversation Vin has with her Kolos buddy. Like,
oh yeah, Human. Good Kolos name.
Yeah, just like, oh, this is new and different, and I really like this, seeing an insight into their heads. You can see sort of shades of what was going on when Elend met up with them in the last book, where they're just like, we're people, you're not, we're the real people. I'm like, okay, we're going to delve a bit more into this. This is interesting. I like that. So I'm curious to see if we get to talk to Human again. But yeah, on the whole, good chapters.
I'm going to try to pilot this with a weird brain because I'm a little inebriated. There you go, listeners. You have insight into what's going on with me right now. So these chapters were good. TenSoon, I'm with Jamie on that. Those were definitely my favorite chapters so far. And I really like the Vin and Sazed moment that we get. It's very sweet, very nice. Sazed really needs it, I think. He's having a hard time. And I'm interested to know, I mean, he's already kind of saying that he's debunked it, but it was an interesting tidbit we got that the Larsteism is the religion that Mayer believed in. Thought that was a nice little tidbit we got as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed each of these chapters. I'm really excited to see what this TenSoon thing is going to be. I've got some predictions that I'll wait till the end to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's funny that he's like, yeah, Kelsier's wife is one of the few people who ever bought into one of the religions I was preaching.
Just interesting that she got to mention it all, because I don't think we mentioned her at all in the second book, did we?
I don't remember, actually. There wasn't really many people left around who knew her. I mean, I guess Dox was familiar with her, but that's a good point. Yeah, I don't know that they did. Okay, I guess let's get into these 4 chapters. The first epigraph is we're learning a little more about Ruin. And the epigraph writer's like, hey, it's easy to think of ruin as this just force of destruction, but you have to think it's intelligent decay, not just chaos. Ruin wants to break everything down to its most basic forms. Kind of fits the name Ruin. Well named. But it can plot and plan, so knowing if he builds one thing up, he can use it to knock 2 others down.
Which I guess is kind of what, the Lord Ruler was trying to do with the Inquisitors or the Koloss or whatever he created. Like, we look at them and go, yeah, they're pretty crazy beings, but they are pulling things down as well as they go.
It's true. And the Kandra do say that they're of ruin, so,
No, they said people are of ruin. They said they themselves are preservation.
I think they said that people and the Koloss, because they were talking about the Koloss at the time. I think they were like, you guys are of ruin, and we're of.
Oh, I thought they said that
right.
They and the Koloss were of preservation.
Well, see, now everyone's just got different readings of that.
Yeah.
Hold on. I got to go back now. That's the only way that we can resolve this. So it says he's talking about how the humans, their stories or religion or whatever say that the humans are going to kill themselves off. And he's like, you are of ruin after all, while the Kandra are of preservation. So yeah, no, he does just say the humans. You're right, Jack. Interesting.
I wonder what the Koloss are then, if they're of anything. I think I assumed they were of ruin if the Lord Ruler created them, but the Lord Ruler created the Kandra, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we have been told he is their father.
Hmm.
And the chapter starts very dramatically, where it's like the first day out of the city, Van Ellen murdered 100 villagers. But really, it's just, there's no way to house all of these people to keep them out of the mist. So the only choice is to expose everyone to the mist and let it do its thing.
Yeah, chickenpox on a large scale.
Yeah, kinda. But families have to watch in horror as their loved ones writhe on the ground. So that's nice. Honestly, I'm surprised that people this far out have managed to stay out of the mist as long as they have.
True.
Well, they can still keep it out by closing the door, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But I figure if the mist is staying like half the day, then it's like, really you stay inside all that time? All right.
I think that's their point too. There's going to come a point where the mists are there all day, every day, that it won't be feasible to keep people inside. So at least if we've done it now, it's done.
And Vin has changed her opinion very strongly on the mists. When Kelsier first trained her, the mists were her friend, and now she's like, I hate you, stupid mist. I like all the different things that apparently Ellen scholars have tried. It's like we tried hoods to keep people from breathing the mist. We tried to wait until the mists were already established before going outside, or rushing people inside the moment they started shaking, but nothing works. Though animals are immune for some reason. So the mist gave fits to fewer than 1 in 6, and only a small fraction of those died. 1 in 6 still seems like a lot, I gotta say.
If 1 in 6 for a reaction is quite high, but I guess from what we read in the second book too, I didn't sort of think the mist really left survivors. Like most people that we heard of died. So I was expecting a whole bunch of people just to die.
I think when Sazed ran across that one guy in the house in the village by himself, that guy told him that some of them fell down and got back up, and then we're like, hey, it's fine, come out. And he was like, no, I'm not going out there. But that was one very small incident in the giant book.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that part, so thanks for bringing that back up.
And Fatrin's like, this is horrible. And Ellen's like, look, we talked about this. Most of them are going to recover when we had to do this. We're going to be walking a while. We don't have tents for everybody, so they were going to get in the mist at some point.
Yeah, I just don't think the term inoculated, which I'm sure they just don't understand how it's working. I don't really think it applies in this situation because it's clearly just something that has to do with the mist and how it affects people. Based on some of the epigraphs we read in this chapter, these chapters, I have kind of a theory about that.
Oh, okay. You're going to wait till theories? Or you want to come out with...
I'll at least wait until we get to that epigraph that kind of made me think of it.
Okay. So, they expose everyone. At least, I mean, that's a good thing, is, like we said, once you've been in the mist once, you're good. Whether you fell down or not, you're safe. So they're going to have the Koloss bury the dead, and the ones, it says the ones that the mists attacked but didn't kill would be sick and cramped for several days, perhaps longer. And if the usual percentage is held, then nearly 1,000 of the villagers would fall into that category. So they're going to have the Koloss carry those. But yeah, I can see why Ellen and Vin would both feel bad about this. Not that they had much choice, but like they say, it's better than a slow death back in the village. So, oh, and this is where she kind of wanders off and is hanging out with this Koloss. And like his first line, he's like, "Don't look at me. You don't think I'm human." And she's like, "Well, that's because you aren't human." He's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna be human. We're gonna kill you and take your cities, and then we will be human." So, and she said that this is a common theme among the Koloss. So yeah, it wasn't just the one Ellen met last time. This is all the Koloss kind of feel this way. But it's my favorite bit where she's like, "What's your name?" And he thinks for a minute, and he's like, "Human." And she's like, "Okay, I get that that's what you want to be human. I understand, but what's your name?" He's like, "No, that's my name. You call me human."
Human, sir.
And they have what is a very strange conversation, I feel like, is aside from his whole human thing. She's like, "So, hey, how old are you?" He's like, "Don't you see my bigness? I'm bigger than some, smaller than some, but not very many. That means I'm old." And we did find out in the last book that it's like, that's how it works. They grow until they die because their heart gives out or whatever. And then he's like, "I hate you. I want to kill you, but I can't kill you." It's like, "Nope, you sure can't."
Well, yeah, she mentioned earlier, it's like, oh yeah, they're fighting against my control, but even when I'm asleep, they can't break it. I'm like, that's interesting. I don't know, I think we might have covered that a bit before, but because I think that was one of the questions we had at the end of the second book when she took control of them. It's like, how do they not flick it off when she's in that coma?
Because she wasn't even burning metal or anything, so we were talking about, like, how is she still, like... But apparently it's like a one-and-done thing, where they're under your control, then you got them unless somebody takes them.
Unless someone takes them, yeah. So I guess, yeah, I'm a bit curious to see if there's any more tricks to that we haven't quite figured out yet, because the tip left by the Lord Ruler on that little plaque was you get heaps of people to push on them at once, and that'll put them under your control. So does that mean... like if one of those people dies, like does everyone else still have control over the Koloss, or what if the people who control them start arguing about what to do with them, or yeah.
That's a good question. Does do you need everybody to push to break through, but then one guy gets the actual control, or does everybody get a few of them? Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
She tries to ask him about girl Koloss to figure out their reproduction, and he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And she's like, "Okay, let's try something else. Are there baby Koloss?" It's like, what the fuck is a baby? Little Koloss. And he's like, "Well, there's one 5 foot tall over there." And she's like, "No, smaller than that." And he's like, "No, we don't get smaller than that." So apparently they start out at 5 feet tall, according to human.
Which, if they do reproduce and somebody has to push out a 5 foot tall thing, that doesn't sound great.
Nope. And so she's like, "Okay, fine. So where did new Koloss come from?" And he's like, "From us." And she's like, "That's not helpful," but he's done talking. And I like she jumps to, maybe they bud off each other, which that's a picture.
He's also a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
Maybe they lay eggs or something. I don't know.
Big 5 foot tall eggs.
Big 5 foot tall eggs.
Correct.
Oh, imagine the omelets.
Oh my gosh. But they make it back to Ellen's army. And Daemu is there to greet them. General Daemu now. He's moving up in the world.
Yep.
She talks about, man, this used to be a really skinny dude who was like terrified of holding a sword.
Now he's like this grizzled veteran with like a piece of his scalp missing from where a Koloss sword nearly took his head, and like a scar on his cheek. He's a badass now.
In this book, the part of clubs will be played by Daemu.
Yeah, well, he's a little more cheery than clubs, but yeah.
Well, that's not hard.
No.
I mean, fucking human is probably more cheery than clubs.
I don't know. There's an interaction that we missed out on. Human and clubs hanging out.
Call me human. New sitcom coming to NBC this fall. Human and clubs.
Playing right after the Venture Brothers TV show.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the spin-off season.
Oh.
The crossover event of the season, Clubs and Human, with the Venture Brothers.
I like Ellen and Daemu joking back and forth, where he's like, "Oh man, you got a bunch of Koloss. That's pretty cool. Hope the Inquisitor wasn't too sad." And Ellen's like, "Yeah, well, probably didn't bother him too much since he was dead at the time." Yeah. I got jokes.
I killed a guy. How funny. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, we had a Kolos pulverize his head. It was wicked.
And then we cut him open to look for adium, which I guess we never found out if they found any.
Yeah, I
feel
don't
like
think
they would
so.
have mentioned if they had.
They probably would have.
For sure. She's like, let's check his stomach. Ellen's like, okay.
But then we find out that the Church of the Survivor has got like a symbol now, and it is a spear.
Yeah, I felt like this was a real dig at Christianity.
It's kind of funny because he talks about that in the annotations. Hold on, let me go to that, because he's like, so I'm not trying overtly to duplicate Christianity here with the spear becoming the symbol of the Church of the Survivor, like the cross for Christians. It just seems a very natural symbol, and I do very much like playing with the idea of how religions grow and change from a loose set of beliefs into an organized theology. So he recognized that, but he's like, I think it makes sense.
I thought it was going for more of a spear of destiny rather than the cross thing.
Yeah, well, I would have thought that if he didn't specifically make mention in the book that they thought it was that Ellen thought it was kind of strange that the object with which he was killed would be what they would would use.
Yeah, that's Vin, because she's like, that's what she
Yeah,
thinks. She's like, it's
yeah,
weird
Vin,
that the thing that killed him is what the symbol is. And then she thinks, but maybe it's actually not that. Maybe it's the spear that I killed the Lord Ruler with. She's never like been brave enough to ask this question.
Yeah. She's like, that would be even worse, so I don't even want to talk about it.
There's a reason I haven't read this religion's Bible.
I wonder if they have one. It's not like Kelsier wrote any holy books down for them, so
Yeah, it sounds like it's all an oral tradition so far.
maybe
picturing.
There's gonna be like a book of Damu in the future.
Yeah, the Book of Damu, the Book of Vin. Did anybody betray them? The Book of TenSoon.
There's a bit in Disenchantment where they're attending a religious ceremony, and the king's advisor is sitting in the back just going, yes, this religion's still in its early stages.
Okay.
Are the later seasons good? I couldn't get through the first season.
I liked the later seasons, but I also liked the first season. I didn't dislike it as much as most people seem to.
Yeah.
That definitely got better in the last 2 episodes when the story actually came into it.
Okay, well, maybe I'll stick it out then. I've been having trouble. The last episode I watched was the one where they send her to a nunnery for a hot second, and then she comes back and becomes an executioner. That one was pretty funny. Plus, it had the guy from Bake Off, Great British Bake Off. He was a guest star on that episode, so I thought that was funny.
Nice.
Noel, I think his name is.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
No.
Yes,
Yeah,
he was the main executioner. He
he's
becomes
the main
he becomes a semi-regular.
Oh, really? Awesome.
I think I only made it through like 4 episodes of that show. I had to go back and look at the list of episodes just now, but I think Castle Party Massacre is the last one I watched.
Oh, with the Land Vikings?
Yeah. And then it's not that I didn't like it, I just didn't like it enough to keep going at that point.
It's definitely not as good as
Futurama.
Futurama.
Me in yet. Yeah, and that's what I was wanting, right? I was like, ooh, it's going to be like Dungeons and Dragons style, but Futurama, but it wasn't.
So you mean like Bender's Game?
Yeah, Bender's Game's a little different, though. That's what they need, is a robot from the future to come into the show.
They need a robot.
Just shout obscenities and sing about his own name.
The devil thing is for?
I guess. He's not quite as funny to me. And they don't use him, I feel like, enough. At least not in the episodes I watched.
Okay, sorry. Back to the thing that we're talking about.
One more. Bender. Bender. Okay.
Mute.
Yeah, let's just mute that channel. It's all good.
Aww.
That's what Hermes did to him.
Oh, that's true.
Ellen is going to send some soldiers with Fatrin and his people to head back to Luthadel to start farming. And he's like, but you can tell your men that if any of them wants to join the army, we're recruiting. And Fatrin's like, well, why don't you just force them? You forced us to do everything else that you wanted. He's like, well, yeah, but army's different. I don't want somebody fighting who doesn't want to be here because they won't fight well. Which, yeah, that's...
I can't get a beat on Fatrin. I can't tell if he likes Elend or if he hates him or if he's thankful, or it's almost like he forgets what Ellen told him in the previous chapter every time that Ellen has a new conversation with him. It's like, hey, remember that stuff I said before and you started to trust me? Oh no, I don't remember any of that, so I'm just gonna be like, you're just here to rule us. Like I can't figure him out.
To be fair, he's pretty polite about, like, he's like,
Yeah.
my lord, pardon me, but why wouldn't you just force them?
Yeah, I guess.
He's more respectful now by far than at the beginning.
Well, yeah, and his brother, who we haven't heard from since.
Yeah, we haven't seen.
we haven't seen Mushroom in a
duffel
while.
bag. Yeah,
What is it, McDuff?
Ruffle?
It was. I think it was Druffle. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I like McDuff better.
In case you're interested, there is an annotation that says, as a side note, this is the last we see of Fatrin.
Spoilers.
Boo! Boo!
I thought they were shaping him up to become the main villain.
Yeah, he leads like a coup.
He's ruined the whole time. Just
Yeah.
like a meat puppet.
Oh man, that would be too much. Too much.
But we find out Sage and Breeze are due back this evening, and Ellen's like, "That's good. I'm gonna go take a nap now." And Jamie's like, "Wait, did we find where the final cache is?" And Ellen's like, "Oh yeah, it's in Fadrex." And Jamie's like, "Oh my gosh, Set's gonna love that."
So heads up, we're still gonna have to deal with Set.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean we still have to deal with Arian. I mean, I guess it's just imperative that we have to deal with both of them.
And so he's like, "Damu, set up a meeting for this evening. We got stuff to talk about." And Damu's like, "Well, should I tell everyone what the meeting is about?" And Ellen's like, "The same thing we do every night, Damu. Try to take over the world."
He's like, also,
the
Damu?
Erland and the Dem.
And it's also Demu. We're gonna need a grease man.
Who would be the grease man for this crew?
You think we need one more? You think we need one more?
Okay, we'll get one more. Oh gosh. Okay, that was that chapter. Then the next one, we got another epigraph where we find out that Allomancy was indeed born with the mists, or at least it began at the same time the mists first appeared.
Guys, the nose will work. Okay,
The nose plays.
the nose plays.
And there's an interesting note in here where it's like Rashek became aware of a lot of things when he took the power. Some of that was like instinctive that he learned as part of the power, but some of it was whispered to him by Ruin.
It's like, hey, you got to give all this up. This is the stuff you got to give up. And Rashek's like, I'm not going to give that up. That sounds awesome. Yeah, like this is just an interesting thing in that I guess I kind of assumed once we found out where Mistborns came from that bead of metal in the well, that was where like Mistings would just be their progeny and their generations down the line. This would indicate it's the other way around. Allomancy came first, but then Mistborns came after that.
Indeed.
So that threw out my perception on a few things.
Forced you to wonder exactly. But
like now we know, because I assume the Nuggets that's where Mistborn come from. That's where Allomancy comes from. Easy, solved. Nope, Mistborns, Allomancers came first. Mistings were already a thing before Mistborns were. Which
They did say though that the Allomancy was granted, like the Lord Ruler granted Allomancy.
Mm-hmm.
So why would he wanted to grant power to those who were supportive of him? Why would he only grant the ability to do one power or something if he's already got the power from the well at that point?
I assumed that was the same reason he would, like Marsha's made a point that like he held back on some of the Inquisitor's powers, and I assume that's just another way of controlling people. It's like, yeah, you've got a power, but you don't have all the power.
Well, we know the mists. It says that they appeared at the same time that the mists first appeared, and we know that those were around well before they climbed up to the Well of Ascension and took the power, because that's the whole reason they were going there, was because the mists were covering the land and it was the deepness and blah blah blah. So there were mistings around, or I mean, I get maybe even Mistborn for all we know from this. Of course, we don't know how long before, like if the mists first showed up and that was the deepness and they immediately started like destroying the world, or if they were already around before that. We don't really know much about that end of it.
Well, they're called Mistborn, right? This is something we talked about from the inception of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess is when the deepness came, that's when maybe these people first came about, mistings, what have you. And when we get to the next epigraph, I'll kind of expound on what I think they may be getting at, because the next epigraph kind of gives us even more information about where Allomancy comes from. So
okay, fair enough. But one of the things it says that the Lord Ruler learned, or that Rashek learned when he took the power, was he got an instinctive knowledge of the 3 metallic arts. For instance, he knew that these nuggets would make people Mistborn when they ingested them. They were, after all, a fraction of the very power in the well itself. So something about the power in the well and the power in these pieces of metal is part of the same thing. Okay, then we cut to TenSoon. He's 700 years old, and he has been to the Trustworn before. But by the time he was born, the first generation had already given over the raising of New Kandra to the second generation. So the firsts didn't stay involved very long, apparently.
Yeah, I really like, if we don't get as much information as I want from this book about the Kandra, I really wish, if he hasn't, that Brandon would just write a book about like the history of the Kandra, because it's so interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way they've separated themselves into generations, and then what we find out about how, like, literally what we were joking about, like Mistwraiths basically being picked and graduating into being Kandra.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such an interesting idea to me. So I really want to know, like, how the intricacies of how their society works and how they manifest their evolution and stuff.
Yeah, and this whole generational thing is really interesting because it's the first, I guess, created the seconds, and we have no idea where the firsts came from except that the Lord Ruler supposedly made them, right? So, and then the seconds raised the thirds, but apparently the thirds are kind of a disappointment.
Yeah, and I mean, from the way they're talking in the book, it sounds like the seconds created all of the generations after.
Yeah, it does seem kind of that way. Like the seconds are in charge, more or less.
They had to fix their mistake.
They make a point there that that without the Lord Ruler, they can't create any more generations.
Yep.
So it's still got to be something to do with it, and something to do with him and his part to play and all that.
Yeah, and I mean, even in the last sections that we read, TenSoon was like, I don't think there's going to be like a 12th generation because the Lord Ruler's gone. It's just that TenSoon used to be the least troublesome of the thirds, so it's ironic that he's the one who ends up on trial for the most heinous of crimes. The Trustworn is a big circular room with metal walls and a platform with a massive steel disc set in a rock floor. Lamps made of glowing stone, enclosed in blue glass. It's kind of an interesting picture. So all the light is blue.
Getting a real vibe of. Do you guys ever see that sci-fi movie Dark City from the late 90s?
No, I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
It's like it explored a lot of the ideas that the Matrix did before the Matrix made it popular, but it also had its own like sort of weird council meeting of dark, really weird looking figures, and I got a serious vibe out of that from this.
Oh yeah, I just searched that, and one of the first images that comes up on Google Image Search, I see exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Excellent movie, by the way. Everyone should watch that.
What's it called?
Dark City.
Dark City. Okay.
It's like a very young Kiefer Sutherland's in it, William Hurt, Jennifer Connelly.
What a cast.
1998. Is that before The Matrix? When was that?
Matrix is 99.
Okay, so that was like very close before The Matrix.
It was like
Gotcha,
the year
yeah.
after. Mm-hmm.
And
Maybe-
I think the main villain of the movie is Richard O'Brien from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Never seen Rocky Horror.
You have to watch that.
I keep meaning to. I've just never. It's never. The chances never popped up for me, or I forget what it does.
Yeah. Well, I forget. Are you like a musical theater guy? Do you like watching stuff like that?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
I like musicals when the music's good. Like my wife dragged me to the Pitch Perfect movies because she loved Pitch Perfect, and I don't like most of the stuff about those movies, but the music's pretty good. I like a cappella. It's
Sure.
It's a fun genre of music. Okay, sorry, random movie side talk again. I'll add Dark City to the list of things to watch at some point. I'll have to see if it's streaming somewhere.
Yeah, just make sure you get like the director's cut and not the regular, because the regular theatrical cut has a voiceover narration added that just completely ruins the mystery.
Weird.
Oh,
They Blade Runnered
like
it.
Blade Runner.
I was about to
Yeah.
say, yep, Blade Runner. There you go. That one I hadn't seen for the longest time. We finally, my wife and I bought it and watched it after the second Blade Runner came out on DVD, because we're like, somebody gave us the second one on DVD, and we're like, oh, we have to watch the first one before we can watch the second one, obviously.
What cut
Fair.
did you watch?
I don't remember if it was the director's cut or ultimate cut. I honestly don't remember.
Well, the final cut is like the actual Ridley Scott cut. The director's cut was actually not made by Ridley Scott.
That's That's a misnomer.
Yeah. So basically,
much
the
so.
director's cut was made by a company. So like fans went through and made a cut of the film that was extremely popular, and then the production company that I guess owned the rights to the film basically cut the film that way themselves and released it as the director's cut. And Ridley Scott was like, "That's not the cut I want." And so much later, he made the final cut. I actually like the director's cut more than the final cut.
Yeah.
I'm a huge original Blade Runner fan, though. Like, part of the reason we're getting off topic here. Part of the reason I love Cyberpunk so much is because it's got a very Blade Runner vibe to it.
We actually, neither of us loved it. We didn't end up watching the second one after the first one, because we were just like, eh. So I've never actually watched the second one, even though that was the entire reason we bought the first one.
Second one I like too, but I like the first one a lot better.
I remember I like Googled to be like, which version do people recommend most? And then we watched that one. I don't remember which one it was offhand.
I would guess that most people would have said the final cut because that's Ridley Scott's like cut of the film.
Okay, sorry. Back to the thingy. There's 20 second generations, we find out, and they're all sitting there staring at him. And it kind of reminds me of the Council of Robot Elders, because we even find out later that there's the one like stupid one.
Quiet, Jimmy.
It's practically that exact scene where the guy's like, duh, but we wouldn't do that. He's like, shut up, you. But TenSoon's like, oh my gosh, I'm standing on the trust. This is so cool. And Khan Par of the second generation is like the one doing all the talking. And they're like, hey, you're gonna insist on this trial, huh? You sure you want to do that? And TenSoon's like, yeah, that's the whole point of what we've been doing. And so they pop open the doors and everybody starts coming in.
I just love the little note where TenSoon sizes him up and has gone, those bones are really, really pretty, but they're not going to stand up in a fight.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because the seconds apparently like to have, crystal bones?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's very pretty, but they're going to break easy.
Yeah.
But I have to beat you up.
I don't think they actually get out very much. Too busy trying to run it all.
Yeah, I think he said that like most of the seconds haven't been outside in like hundreds and hundreds of years. So
Yeah. I think he said even he was one of the last thirds to come home. Most of the others have already returned and are retired.
Yeah.
And we get one bit here where TenSoon's, he's like, he was hoping Meilon wouldn't show up, but she was one of the first ones in, and she sits down looking worried about him. And he's like, he should have recognized her. She had a new true body, an eccentric one with bones made of wood and a wooden skull. The younger generations are always pushing the boundaries of propriety. He's one to talk. I like that one of them has 4 arms. One of the 7th generation. See, that's the kind of thing I would do. I'm like, why are you all just doing this normal human stuff? Look, I got like 3 legs and 4 arms. This is great.
You're just that one Kandra that looks like Dr. Octopus.
Who wouldn't want to be Dr. Octopus, right?
That would be awesome.
But there's something I want to read here because it's some interesting backstory that there's no other way for us to get. So, but before that, one of the things in the annotations that may help you guys kind of place all this. He's saying that the Kandra chapters in this book aren't staggered quite as much as he might have liked, but he prefers in his books that one chapter happens after the chapter before it chronologically. So all the TenSoon trial chapters take place in one day. So he couldn't split them up a whole lot through the book because he didn't want to like jump forward in time a week to Vin's chapter and then jump back in time a week back to TenSoon's chapter. So
even when they're jumping around chapters, it's all chronological. It's sort of
more or
happening
less
at the same time. Or,
yeah.
Okay.
So that's something to keep in mind as we move forward because we're going to jump around a lot. He tries to keep them more or less chronological.
Fair.
But backstory about Meilon. He says it's never fully explained who Meilon is, so I'm going to give you the background here. One of the things that Kandra do is take contracts to serve mankind. However, there are other jobs that Kandra can do back in the homeland, and one of the most prestigious ones includes training and instructing child Kandra. This can take years and years as Kandra grow very slowly. TenSoon was appointed a quote-unquote parent of one single Kandra during his lifetime. Many of the 5th generation have been parents dozens of times, but the Thirds are a rebellious group, and it was only after much consideration and political pressure that the Thirds were given any chances at all. Meilon, then, is kind of TenSoon's adopted daughter. She has something of a hero worship crush on him, inspired by his gruff style and adventuresome personality. Her idolizing of him borders on a romantic crush, and this makes TenSoon somewhat uncomfortable. There you go. Now you can astound your friends with Mistborn background trivia.
Yeah, I was hoping that we would get more in-book information about her, so that's kind of sad that that's all we get.
Yeah, I feel like that doesn't seem like anything that he probably couldn't have worked into.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no one around that doesn't know it, so I guess it would have just been a bunch of information that TenSoon said. She shows up a couple more times, at least, if I remember right, but you never get, like, the background of their relationship.
Right, so later on in the book, TenSoon's out for whatever reason. He's palling around with Vin and all the rest, and then he and Breeze sit down and commiserate the fact they both have younger girls who have crushes on them.
That would be funny. It's like, let's have a conversation. Let's be friends, Breeze. I think the only time I don't know that we've ever seen him interact with Breeze. He makes sarcastic comments to Vin about eating Breeze.
Yeah, no, well, he never really interacted with the others at all because Vin kept him thinking, no, he's just my dog.
Oh yeah, I guess she never kind of revealed that except to Ellen. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like when Doxson dies, the last thing that goes through his head is like, why did Vin get a dog?
Okay, so they're starting the trial, and TenSoon's like, oh yeah, this guy, he's loving this. He finally gets to prove that all the third generation is just miscreants, since even the most quote-unquote temperate of the thirds is a danger. And then he looks at everybody, and he's like, man, all these people are in for a surprise. And that's the end of the chapter. And yeah, I guess he did have some surprising stuff to say to them. We're going to get to that here in a bit. So here is the epigraph that Joe wanted to say something about. But I also had something. I told Dak 2 episodes ago, remember your theory, because I'm going to have something relevant to say when we get to this point.
The crazy theory of Vin's mum slipping her the bead.
So it says, nuggets of pure allomancy, the power of preservation itself. Why Rashek left one of those nuggets at the Well of Ascension, I do not know. And then he theorizes about different reasons Rashek might have left it there. But I blessed him for his oversight, for without that nugget, Ellen would have died that day at the well. So this is an interesting example showing us that the person writing the epigraphs doesn't know everything, or at least not as much as they think they know. Because Rashek did not leave 1 nugget at the Well of Ascension. He left 2. And
why are you telling us this?
It's just a fun background fact.
Okay.
That I also said I would that I was going to provide, but also to give Dak some credence for his theory.
Oh, I see. So you're trying to make us sniff down the wrong trail. Okay.
No, I was already planning on sharing that because it's an interesting look at.
Well, it makes sense, right? Because they say there's some other broken pottery next to that one.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
it was kind of like in a pile of broken pottery, if I remember right.
All right. So yeah, that's interesting. Although I'd also be interested to know if Vin really was the one that got that bead. Why is Ellen stronger than her? So then my question is somebody who maybe she is just a closer descendant of the person that ate the bead than Ellen did? Since Ellen is the primary person who ate the bead, maybe somebody she's related to ate the other bead, and she's just closer in genealogy to that person, so she's stronger than normal Mistborns, but not as strong as Ellen.
Interesting. Possible.
It's possible, I guess.
Oh, I was also going to mention, because I don't think it's actually ever stated anywhere in any of the materials so far. It's just something Brandon has told people who have asked. The metal, the bead that he ate, it is called Lerasium. I don't think they ever give us the name in the books, but that's what it's called.
Lerasium, like lore?
No, Lerasium. I
was about to say, it's going to be really cheesy if it's like Lore. Lerasium. It's like unobtainium. Ooh. All right. So yeah, about this epigraph, we get the information, the power of preservation itself, nuggets of pure allomancy. Okay. So I'm going to try to tie this together. And I talked about this a little bit at the end of the second book, my thoughts on it. So this allomancy, I don't know, the way that it's been described to us so far, preservation and ruin almost sound like it's like a yin-yang thing. They're 2 parts of like maybe a whole. You know, some people are ruin, some people are preservation, whatever. But I'm assuming Sazed, especially since this one specifically makes mention of Elend, and that might have been our only other culprit for who's writing these epigraphs. Assuming Sazed is writing this saying that this pure allomancy is the power of preservation itself. And then I'm just going to go back to what we've been talking about since the first book. It's like these people are called Mistborn, born of the mist. There's a mist creature that tries to communicate with them. Preservation. Maybe he is not only the creator, progenitor, or whatever you want to say of allomancy, he's also the mist. That's a part of his. What would you say? It's part of the makeup of who he is and how he manifests him or herself, whatever, on this planet as mist. Okay. So stick with me. So, but then we're saying, well, the deepness is bad. It covers the land. It kills crops.
Well, and it kills people now, yeah.
Yeah, and it kills people. Well, I mean, what did the mist monster killed? The mist creature tried to kill Elend so that Vin would give him the bead. Or, sorry, I guess so she would take the power to cure him at first. But then when that didn't work, maybe it was like, oh, take that bead. He'll survive.
It did point out the bead to her, yeah.
Right. So it's working. If that is preservation, it's working against ruin, a push, a pull, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to just say that it's a yin-yang thing because I don't really know how else to describe their relationship. So what if preservation is that creature, then it is the mist, and the mist is killing people. What if the mist is not trying to kill them? What if it's trying to create more allomancers? What if it's trying to snap them?
Ooh.
And by trying to make them snap, it ends up killing some people by accident.
Huh. We do know that snapping is a process that can be unpleasant and painful, so...
Yeah.
Okay.
So if preservation is mist and allomancy and all that stuff, it seems like the allomantic stuff is how they fight against, how preservation is trying to fight against ruin.
Hmm.
And ruin may be the source of, maybe ruin's the source of hemalurgy, just as preservation is the source of allomancy.
Okay. Yeah.
What's the
that
third
makes sense.
allomantic? Feruchemy. So I don't know how feruchemy comes into it. I don't know if that's from one or the other, or if it's from humanity. I don't know that part.
Well, Ruin sure does have his Inquisitors shoving spikes in a lot of people, so...
Yeah, and they're getting feruchemical powers. At least that's what I'm presupposing from the Inquisitors, getting new spikes shoved through Terracemen. So.
Yeah. So if that's all part of the hemalurgy process, Ruin's definitely using it a lot. So maybe it makes sense for that to be So it says that allomancy, nuggets of pure allomancy, the power of preservation. So that does make it sound like allomancy comes from preservation, right? It's the power of preservation, it says. So maybe then Ruin has his own. That makes sense, yeah.
And then it would make sense for them to be called Mistborn if originally the mist snapped people and made them stronger. So I think that's what I'm reading these epigraphs. That's where I'm trying to take a lot of notes this book. I didn't take notes in either of the last two books, but I feel like maybe that's where these epigraphs are pointing us towards.
That's interesting.
So we've read earlier, so that Ruin is basically the power that came out of the well.
Yeah.
But didn't they say that the nuggets were a part of Ruin itself?
Well, they said it came out of the well, which was confusing to me too, because then right here, the epigraph writer says that the nuggets are pure preservation power.
Yeah.
Correct.
So if they are, that's why I thought maybe the relationship was like a yin and yang thing, like they both come from the well, and maybe preservation was released, which is why the mists already exist on the planet, and Ruin was still trapped in the well. Maybe they both came out of the well though.
Okay.
So yeah, okay, hold on. So now I'm trying to find the other.
It was actually tying into something I was going to bring up later, but since we're on the topic, I pretty much agree with everything you're saying. I've sort of had the idea that maybe preservation is the deepness, and it's actually not the malicious force everyone expects it to be.
Right.
And it's basically by turning people into Mistborns. Like TenSoon said that humans were of Ruin, so if the deepness turns them into Mistings and Mistborn, then they're no longer of ruin, they're of preservation, and so that's what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
So it's basically trying to turn Ruin's army against it.
Right. And then the well is where maybe all of these powers come from, like preservation and ruin. If their relationship is yin and yang, maybe they were both in the well pushing, pulling on each other. And now, like at some point, somebody or something released preservation from the well, and then, they go to the well to try to stop this mist because they don't understand it. And then they end up not releasing the other power. Rashek takes it for himself, but then now finally this other power has been released. So now you've got these two powers that have been released, maybe from the same place.
Okay, so yeah, we know. I'm trying to wrap my head around what all we have down. We know that Rashek took the power and used the power, and it didn't let out ruin, because that's what we eventually determines escapes when Vin doesn't use the power for herself, right? So you can take the power that comes to the well every 1,000 years, and if you use it, you don't let ruin out. So ruin tricks someone, Vin, into taking the power and letting it go, and then ruin's like, I'm free. So is the power that you're using, is that ruin power? Or is,
It's sort of hard to say because Rashek created the Kandra, and they look up to him as their father, and they are explicitly creatures of preservation. So that would suggest he's using the power of preservation that was in the well.
Yeah, like maybe the knowledge of both powers is in there, and like that knowledge, but Rashek, because the epigraph writer says that his knowledge wasn't complete, right? It's like he knows how to do things, but he doesn't know how those things affect other things.
Yeah.
So maybe if what I'm thinking, preservation had somehow been released, really what was left in the well was ruin's power, and then the remnants of preservation's power, but it's not a complete knowledge or power because it's just remnants. It's not actually the complete knowledge. So I don't know.
But you're also thinking that the mists or the mist spirit or the mist spirit and the mists are also a part of preservation, right? So some of it was in the well, I guess, but some of it is not.
Right. I mean, if Rashek can take power out and ruin is still in the well, then that leads me to think like the power or the knowledge of said power and then giving some of that power is not like when you take it, you're not taking ruin. Maybe you're taking a piece of him. So if a piece can be taken out while the thing is still inside, could a piece of the other one be left behind when after it leaves?
Okay.
I don't know.
And we know from the last epigraph before this that it says the nuggets are a fraction of the same power that's in the well, and then in this epigraph it says the nuggets are the power of preservation.
Right.
So, okay.
So if there's power left in the well, and they're saying that was allomancy, but then also these nuggets are preservation, then that has to be preservation's power.
I sort of read it as the power of preservation is keeping the power of ruin trapped in the well.
Yeah, that could be it too.
Okay. So
I think preservation has been released, and that is the deepness doing all it does over the world, and maybe too much of it is a bad thing for the world. But the fact that a couple of things spring to mind. It mentions that Rashek didn't use all the power, which is why he was the sliver of infinity. So he only used a small portion of it anyway.
Yeah.
And just went back over the other epigraphs, and the one where it talks about how he moved the planet to make the excess heat from the sun burn the mist away, and then that didn't work. Makes me think, did he ever actually try and use the power to attack the mist directly? Or was he just like trying to do everything and hoping indirectly the mist would be affected by it? Yeah. So that sort of says to me, is he using the power of preservation to get rid of the deepness preservation? Maybe like he's like, I can't use the same power against it, so I've got to try and find some other way to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it couldn't get rid of its own power, or it could even be. So now you got me. If your yin and yang like theory has me thinking, so it's like maybe there are these powers that like can't touch, like, you know, opposite polarized magnets. So if ruin is shoved down deep in this well, and then you put like some preservation power on top of that, it can't get out through the power. But then if you if you take that power and like let it go, throw it out, then it's like, oh hey, now that thing that was blocking me is gone.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Mm.
Like maybe, yeah, what you're saying, like it's pushing so hard on the other power or entity that it can't move. So actually, when you grasp the power out of the well, you're actually just grasping preservation. But I still think you must be getting a knowledge of ruin to some extent, because I mean, we're using words to describe these things because these are the words given to us. But
Right.
like to create ash mounts, that doesn't seem like a preservation type of power. So I don't know.
Well, and that one epigraph did say that some of the knowledge that Rashek got was whispered to him by ruins.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Okay. This is you've kind of come up with a really deep theory that I'm still having trouble wrapping my whole brain around here, but I like this. This is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think these epigraphs, I mean, if we'd been paying more attention in the second book, which is why I was determined to take notes this book, if we'd been paying more attention to the epigraphs in the second book, we may have grasped some of the later stuff earlier. So I'm really, like, I am paying more attention to these epigraphs than I've paid attention to any of the epigraphs before.
That's fun. Well, and these are really informative epigraphs too.
Yeah, and I've literally, so I'm taking notes this round, but not only am I taking notes, when we get to an epigraph, I literally write it down word for word, just so that I'm literally like keeping it on paper, so that if I need to go and reference it later, I'll have it. Like I just take notes on the chapter, but when we get to an epigraph, I literally just write it down verbatim.
That's pretty cool. I almost said, hey, there's a place online where they just have all the epigraphs and you can reference, but no, then you won't see future ones.
That is a terrible idea.
That's a terrible idea. Okay. I like this. That how deep we're thinking here, and
Is that a pun?
No, it was not, but now it sounds like one. So
Wait, what's the pun? I'm too drunk
the
to understand.
deepness.
Oh, now I got it.
How deep we were thinking.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I like where this is going. This is kind of and that's one of the things about this book, this one in particular, is that there's this very there's this meta stuff happening, even more so than in the previous two, with these weird powers that we only vaguely are even aware of at this point. And so there's a lot to try to take in, because it's kind of on a whole different level from what we dealt with in the first two books.
Yeah, I mean, we were just dealing with a street rat on a heist mission in the first one, and now it's like,
The power of God.
the whole world is ending or whatever.
All of a sudden it's like, oh, by the way, that Lord Ruler guy at one point had the power to move the planet around. And it's like, oh, okay, geez.
Yeah, and not only that, he did it like an idiot.
Okay.
Hey, what if I put it over here, lol?
he posts something to Twitter. It's like move the planet now. It's too hot. Lol.
Might make some volcanoes today. Who knows?
Yeah. I hope you guys can survive in ash. If not, I'll just change your genetics.
Okay. So back to, now that we've gotten real theoretical and given people a little preview
probably
of
should have saved that
predicaments.
for the end, huh?
I was about to say,
well.
Joe's not going to have much left for predicaments. We're going to get there. And
No,
he's like, I blew
I'm
my
spent.
wad. Yep.
Yeah.
But now let's go. Chapter 10. Sayes is reviewing another religion, Larsteism, which is all about art. It reminds me of the one that he preaches to clubs, actually, which was also very art centric.
I couldn't remember if they were the same name or if they were just very similar, because that was like woodcraft.
Yeah, I don't believe they're the same name. I used to think they were the same, and then somebody set me straight on that. But yeah, he's like Kelsier's wife had converted to this religion, and that's I think it may even be that's where she got her picture of the flower. I don't remember if it says that or not, but I feel like that's a thing. But Sayes is like, I don't know. It's hard for him to dismiss this religion because of it doesn't have that much in terms of dogma, I guess is the right word.
Doesn't have enough to contradict itself.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a religion more about what you can create rather than teachings and dogma, like you were saying. So it's
it's pretty nice.
Yeah. Well, he's just like, man, artists and craftsmen really do objectively good stuff for the world, so I can't really shoot this one down.
Yeah, but he finds a way.
Spoiler, he does eventually find a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not there.
Which, I mean, I kind of agree with him. a religion based solely around like supporting craftsmen and doesn't really have anything to say about like death or moving on or spirit. It's just kind of like, well, I mean, it's nice, but what's the point?
Well, I mean, not that we know of, but like there's a whole lot of things these days. People say, you know, for people who write books or make movies or whatnot, that is their legacy. After they die, they live on through their art.
Yeah.
So
no, yeah, that's a good point. Even at the dawn of Christianity, Jews didn't have like an idea of going to heaven. It was like they lived through their male offspring, like their legacy went on through them. Not necessarily, there wasn't necessarily like a heaven that they believed that they went to.
yeah.
So that, I mean, yeah, that's a good point. But at the same time, like I see where he's coming from too, because he's desperately trying to figure out. He needs closure on what happened to Tinwill and like what now that she's gone, where is she?
Yeah.
And he's desperately looking for that, and this religion doesn't provide it, so he just crosses it off his list because he's like, well, it doesn't make any sense. Like it can't just be this. That's not the truth.
Yeah, it's not enough truth for him at least.
Right.
So, and I like that we get into this conversation where Breeze is talking about like the color scheme of the world and looking down his nose at it, which is just a really fun. Like all this black ash every day. How boring.
Like if you're going to choose a color, why would you choose black?
I didn't know where he was going. Like when Say's caught on to what he was doing, I was like, oh, that's what he's doing. Because I really had no idea where he was going with this. Like, what about red? What about green?
Yeah, I just like that he's like, Ash is a tad unimaginative. He's like, Vin says there's something behind this all, right? Some evil force of doom or whatever. Well, if I was an evil force of doom, then have a little flare. Some red. The rivers would look like they were running with blood if the ash were red. Wouldn't that be cool? It just Breeze
sounds pretty awful, actually.
Say's just like, Breeze, do you need to talk to someone about something?
Are you do you have like a spike in your head telling you to kill people? Or...
No, he probably did at one point, but then it was taken out because the ruin was just like, I cannot deal with this guy blathering on about the color of ash for so long.
Why is this guy constantly drunk?
The wine is eroding the spike.
He even goes so far as they get into like a religious talk. And he's like, you know, the Church of the Survivor says that Vin's going to cleanse the sky and get rid of the mists and bring back flowers and stuff, right? So seems like a suitably feminine thing to do for some reason.
Suitably feminine.
Oh, Breeze.
And then Sace is like, I see what you're doing. You went a little far when you acted like you were actually believing in the Church of the Survivor stuff. And he's like, oh, okay.
Man, you caught me.
You got me.
Damn, next time, Gadget.
Next time, Gadget. I can't do the voice.
Oh my gosh. I totally put on an episode of that show for the kids the other day because they'd never seen it. And it was like,
oh, wow.
It was an episode that I don't remember ever seeing where like Dr. Claw kidnaps Santa and pretends to be Santa and takes over the North Pole. And it was the weirdest.
That sounds pretty amazing.
Oh my
Kid shows were weird back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when Donatello was talking, but it was a red bandana turtle. And you're like, wait, what's happening now?
They're just animation goof ups. Donatello's the best turtle. I'm going to maintain that.
In the original cartoon show, I agree.
But anyway, Breeze is like, you know what? After 6 months of Ash, I almost want to believe in like green plants and stuff because this isn't fun. I can't blame him when it comes down to that. Whether or not the Ash is imaginative enough, it would get old. And that's what Breeze kind of, or not, what Says kind of builds off of to get rid of that religion, to mark it off. He's like, oh yeah, so the ash and everything, the horribly depressing landscape is unimaginative, so it couldn't have been created by like a god who loves art, right? So obviously the teachings of this religion are wrong, contradicted by observed events. He's really stretching on some of these, I think.
Yeah.
And that's when some riders show up, and oh look, it's Ariane coming down in her bright pink dress to see
So all I
Secret.
could picture now at this point was Princess Peach rocking up.
It
Yeah.
does
Which is a
sound
real
kind of
shame.
like that, yeah.
You love
Yeah.
Princess Peach.
I love Princess Peach.
But she hates Arian.
Not
That's
in
why
this
it's a shame.
Yeah. So
Well-
I can't unsee that now.
Aw.
It's so funny because I think they mention even in the chapter, it's like on a normal person, you might be able to see up her dress if she hiked it that high, but she was wearing so many petticoats underneath, and it's just like, what? Why? Why did she need that many layers?
I just like when she shows up, she sits there for a second, and he's like, Arian? She's like, no, quiet. I'm trying to decide if it's worth getting my dress dirty to scamper over there and hug you.
Like it's probably a line that's meant to be adorable. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. And
I
she is a
mean,
princess. Because Sage goes princess.
Yeah, that's true. She calls herself princess, I guess, because Set's calling himself a king. But that begs the question, like, do people like the Breeze and Ariane relationship? Listeners, do you like their relationship? and keep in mind, we haven't gone all the way through the book, so maybe there's some redeeming qualities that come out in her later. But so far, I mean, I don't like it.
I'm waiting for like later on in the book it gets to the point where they're trying to soothe some more Kolos, and so Breeze is there and she rocks up. It's like, I'll help you. They're like, no, wait, don't. That makes them even angrier, and they all get killed because of her.
Yeah.
Because like you
Or,
soothe them
you
to get them
know-
on your side, but you riot them. Turns out that just pisses them off.
Could you imagine if you had a
Yeah.
group of Allomancers that were soothing or rioting the Kolos, and then they all got some, like we were talking about earlier, if they all got their own sort of Kolos to look after. Could you imagine what she'd do with hers? Oh my God, they would be like her personal pack horses, and just they don't
Yeah.
deserve that. They want to be human. That's just going the other way.
Right.
She's like, humans help me carry dresses.
Hmm.
Yeah.
They're just like, why are all these Kolos wearing pink?
No.
She's gonna dress them up.
Yeah,
No,
she's
it
gonna
was
make
the
put on
best
clothes.
thing. Oh my
They're gonna have
gosh.
They're gonna have little hats.
They would
like-
love that.
Oh no,
This one's
They
name is
probably would
Benson.
love that. Oh no.
Benson.
And eventually,
There's Reginald. Reginald, come here.
And that's Wilford.
Wilford.
Eventually, Captain Gordell has to come over and help her get onto Breeze's horse with him.
Yeah, Gorodil's still alive.
Yeah, I was about to ask if you guys remembered Gordell.
Mm. Yeah,
He used to be a Lord Ruler's palace guard.
yeah. You know who I miss? Meow meow.
Yeah, meow. Sure. Is he at this meeting they have later? I don't remember.
I don't think we get to the meeting. In
Oh,
these
do we not get
chapters.
to the meeting? Okay.
No.
So maybe he'll show up.
Would you rather he and Breeze were together rather than Breeze and Orion?
Hey, you know.
I mean,
don't-
it might be more interesting.
Yeah.
They could
And
talk about each other's butts. We
Oh,
know how
no.
much people like to talk about Breeze's butts.
Let's see. So it's Say's notes that they've never gotten married. Breeze has explained that he doesn't want to leave her as a widow when he dies, something he seemed to assume would happen immediately. And then Say's depressingly thinks, well, we're all going to die soon. So
Yeah. Say's is real emo in this book so far.
yeah.
He's going back to his tent, listening to My Chemical Romance.
He also makes the point that there's no one to like make a marriage official at this point because no more obligators, and Ellen's government is not really a thing that has that sort of thing in it.
Yeah.
And we get a repeat of his like, I'm not going to teach lies, not anymore. He can't teach religions again. And we cut to him in his tent, and then Vin shows up unexpectedly while he's trying to shave his head.
Because Finn still has not learned to knock. It's like there's no windows to crawl in here, so she'll just take the door, but she still won't knock.
It's a tent, to be fair, so not. I mean, you can still kind of like smack it, but you can't really knock.
You can say knock knock.
That's true. Yep.
Just imagine Say's on the inside. Who's there?
Do you know people who say knock knock in real life when they enter a room? Because those people are the worst.
Well, I've done that at work when I walk up to somebody's cubicle and they're not like looking my way, so they don't know I'm there, but I want to get their attention. I'll be like, knock knock.
I'll just wait there until they feel me,
That's
you know,
creepy.
in their peripheral, and then they're like, oh, hey, I can't tell you how many people I've startled at work. It's the best.
Oh my gosh. So sorry, Vin shows up and he's like, oh, I thought Damu said you were resting, and she's like, Damu knows better than to let me sleep through you showing up.
Aw.
She loves Sazed. And so they talk about like him not being a keeper, which he's shaving his head because that's what the keepers do, and she's just like, he's like, no, I'm not a keeper anymore. And he's like, well, then what else would you be? And he's like, I'm probably just being selfish. And she has to be like, no, you're the most selfless person ever, Sazed. So. And he's like, I feel kind of childish because like everybody has lost people, but I'm apparently the only one who can't get over it. I don't know that we've ever seen like him actually do any mourning for her, so maybe that's part of it. But
I feel like he's the sort of guy who will just always try and do the stuff that he feels he needs to do. He'll do it in private or when no one else needs anything of him. As soon as someone else asks him to do something, he's just gonna like repress it and go do what they need him to do. So he's never actually going to talk about his own feelings or do what he needs to do personally. He's never going to take him time.
It's probably true. And ever since her death, Elend and Vin have been needing him. Like as soon as like the very next day, she was like, Sazed, I need you to be in charge while I take a nap. And then ever since then, it's just been like, we need you. And I love the conversation they get into where he's like, no, I'm just weak of will is what it must be. And she's like, that's not true. And he says, I must disagree. And she's like, okay, well, if you're so weak of will, how would you be able to disagree with me?
Burn Sazed.
It's like, when did you get so good at logic? And she sighs. And she's like, living with Elend. If you prefer irrational arguments, don't marry a scholar. Which I like that there's this whole married life that we haven't really seen anything of so far, where they have this sort of relationship. It's like, you can't be irrational when I'm fighting with Elend. He's so irrational. Jeez. Ugh.
Logic, it's the worst.
But the whole don't marry a scholar thing was a slip because immediately Sazed is depressed and thinking like, I almost did. And she catches it too. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. And she made a copy of the words from the cavern on a sheet of steel, a thin sheet of steel, so that they can be changed. And she's like, I want to get your opinion on this. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll look at it later. She's like, you're not even going to look at it, are you? And he's like, I got to find my answers before I can help and give answers to anyone else. So,
yep, he'll be whatever he wants to do.
And she tells Sazed, which I don't know, it sounds like she hadn't told him this before, but it was like, there's this moment when I thought Elend was going to die, and I chose to let him because I knew that that's what he wanted. And he's like, how could you possibly have done that? And she's just like, I knew that that's what he wanted me to do, and you gave me that, Sazed. You taught me to love him enough to let him die. And then she leaves, and it's like, oh. And she leaves behind the picture of the flower that had been Mare's and that Kelsier had given to her when he died. So that's a nice ending.
I just want to point out, like, given that I think all three of us are generally in agreement that we think Sazed is the one writing the epigraphs.
Okay.
So it's quite funny when Vin says, like, I held power you can't imagine. Power you'll never be able to imagine. I'm just sitting there just going, well, maybe.
I totally forgot that was in there. I would have mentioned that. Yeah, that's right. That is ironic with y'all's theory. Maybe intentionally ironic.
Possibly.
He's hinting at something if you're right. And then the last epigraph gives us some interesting information about the first contract that we've heard TenSoon talk about.
Yeah, man, it's a full-blown suicide pact.
Well, I mean, so it's like a list of promises that the first generation wrote down and took to the Lord Ruler because they weren't sure if they were about being able to govern themselves independently. And so he had it cast into steel because he knew that the thing could alter stuff not in metal, and then signed it. And so it commands to revere earlier generations, talks about legal rights granted to each Kandra, like the trial that TenSoon gets, provisions for creating new Kandra, ultimate dedication to the Lord Ruler, and yeah, it has a provision which, if invoked, would require the mass suicide of the entire race. That's a hell of a provision. Yeah. Of course, the Lord Ruler's gone now, so maybe he was the one who could have invoked that. I'm sure it's mentioned here for absolutely no reason whatsoever, and will never come up again. So we go back. We're in the trial, and Konpar's like, so yeah, go ahead and explain, traitor Kandra, why you killed one of your own. And TenSoon's like, wait, what?
Man. Like, you're just really grown to hate this guy in such a short amount of time.
Well, because you like TenSoon, so it's easy to,
Yeah, but even so, just like everything this guy says, just like, oh, just shut up.
Well, and there's one more thing I was going to bring out of the annotations, because this is kind of an interesting bit, and it kind of goes with what Joe was saying about wanting almost like a book about the Kandra history or something. And he says, if I ever do any short stories in the Mistborn world, and this is before he'd written any of them, even the one that we've already read, one I would like to write would be from Orsor's point of view near the end of the events of Book 1. He was a complex individual, a true Kandra in many ways, but also a rebel. It was no accident that he was assigned to Kelsier's team, who were planning to overthrow the Empire. He was one of the only Kandra willing to take that contract, and he came out of a long retirement in the homeland to accept it. His motivations were his own, and I'd like to explore them. What would a Kandra think joining a movement to overthrow the father of his own religion? What would he think when that movement actually succeeded? How would he react to then being assigned to care for the woman who held the spear that killed the Lord Ruler? Many of the third generation, TenSoon and Orsur included, weren't as devout in their dedication to the Lord Ruler as many of the others. Orsur himself had seen what the Lord Ruler had done to the world and the people in it, and yet fighting against the man who was revered by his people in such a holy light. Anyway, I think it would make for a good story. I can't tell it here, unfortunately, but maybe somewhere else I will.
That would be a good story to read, I reckon.
Yep. Yeah, he's never actually written that, but I would totally want to read that. It sounds super interesting.
Yeah, that is cool.
Because, yeah, the thing I dislike most about the TenSoon reveal, like everything else about it was really cool, but I think I mentioned at the time, I was sort of disappointed. It means that we just really never got a sense of Orosur as a character.
Yeah.
So, like, if we do get this story down the line, I would devour that thing.
Yeah, it's really... There's the character. We talked about Marsh not getting that development and wanting to know more about Marsh. There's a guy who got even less development than Marsh, but was super integral to what happened. Yeah, I would love to read that also. He also has a note at the end of that paragraph where he's like, eventually I'll explain why the Kandra think they're of preservation and the other races are of ruin. Don't worry, we'll get there. But this is an interesting, because we talked about kind of the same discussion that TenSoon and Kanpar have here at the time, when we find out that TenSoon had killed Orsur. And I don't think you guys had a problem with it. Like, we knew they couldn't kill humans, but when we found out that he killed this other Kandra, you guys were like, okay, I guess that's allowed. And I was like, you guys really think that, like, Kandra life would be less valuable to them than humans? And we had a little bit of a discussion about it, but I don't think anyone really had an issue with what he did. The Kandra have an issue with what he did.
Yeah. I guess at the time we didn't know what we know now about the Kandra race and their beliefs and also how many of them there actually were around there. It's like, well, would they even know if you had killed your own? You know, as far as we're concerned, we're looking at, you know, Inquisitors that are just barbaric. We're looking at Kolos that just don't care. They're like, I hate you, I'll kill you, that's fine. For us, we knew the contract was about preserving human life.
Yep.
So I think in that sort of instance, I mean, knowing what we know now about their homeland and their attitudes, like, yeah, okay, it makes sense that they would be pretty shitty that they killed one of their own. But at the time, it wouldn't have been such a horrible thing, I think.
Yeah, we definitely saw Kolos kill one another without anyone caring. So,
yeah. Also, we were discussing earlier, this is the point where it says Kolos were of ruin.
Yeah. It says, Kolos kill each other, humans kill each other, but they are both of ruin. Yep, there you go. So they kind of go back and forth on this, where he's like, the contract doesn't say that we can't kill another Kandra. Like, TenSoon doesn't get why this is such a big deal, which I think is a little bit dense, because I'm like, come on, dude, seriously? Like, one of you has never murdered another one. I mean, I guess some of them have been executed, but which is another thing, because he's like, we don't kill one another. They tried to execute him like a day ago or something. So
I guess that was punishment for something, whereas, like, what did Orosur do?
Yeah, right. He did help kill their father, which is something, but that's not why he was killed.
The first and second generation would have been, even if that was his reason for getting rid of Orosur, the first and second generations would have been like, well, that's really for us to pass judgment on, not for you to pass judgment on.
Right. I agree. Can't let a third have that job. We have the power.
No.
Here. And they're like, he's like, but it was my contract. We have to do what the people who have the contracts tell us to do. And Kanpar tries to pull stuff out. He's like, so, well, why didn't you do something else? Why didn't you, like, suggest that Zane be the one to kill him? Isn't a Kandra life worth more than that of a man? And TenSoon's like, I wasn't going to tell Zane how to kill a Kandra. That's insane. He was crazy.
Yeah, for Christ's sake, Kanpar, pick your audience.
And that's it. At that point, he's still preserving their secret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Kanpar does have one point where he's like, this is the first time anyone's ever asked, a Kandra to impersonate another Kandra. It is a disturbing precedent because if people kept doing that, then we would all kill ourselves. There's not that many.
Yeah.
things.
Which, I mean, that's a good point, but also they're the ones who insisted he take the contract with Strath Venture in the first place, so.
Yep. And that's what TenSoon comes back with. He's like, look, you guys are the ones who sent me to this contract with Strath Venture. You guys are the ones who agreed to a contract to kill our dad. So maybe some of this is on you.
We didn't think he'd actually do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what the one guy starts to, like, duh, well, we didn't think he was going to win. They paid so well.
Yeah, we didn't think he was going to actually kill the guy. I mean, no one's ever done it in the history of forever. And that's our dad. You think we really want him dead? I mean, whatever.
Kampar's like, shut up, Hun Four. Shut up, Jimmy. Silence.
We've really got to stop letting him into these meetings.
He's like, TenSoon's sitting there like, that Hun Four, he never really fit in with the other seconds. He's a little more dense.
Yeah,
He's
and
a
by
little
dense
bit
he
rough.
means his
You can
true
tell he's not
body's
too
made
bright.
out of-
He's grown an arm coming out of his face.
Yeah. And by a little more dense, he means that his true body's made out of, like, sand rock.
Ooh, sandstone. I've played Minecraft. I know how that works.
Sandstone, that's it.
You put four sands together and you get a sandstone.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Okay.
And then eventually, like, they don't want to reveal the big secret. Kampar's like, why don't you just let us pass judgment now? You've already admitted what you did. And TenSoon's like, you and I both know that me killing Orstor has, like, almost nothing to do with why we're here. It's an interesting point. I wonder how they would have reacted if that was the only thing that he'd done.
I mean, they might have been like, well, that was part of the contract. I mean, you did what you had to do. That's, maybe we should stipulate that we can't do that anymore, though.
Oh, geez, guys, we didn't think of this.
We need to revise the contracts that we use.
It's only been in place for 1,000 years. Like, oh, gee, it's never come up before now.
Well, and I guess it's been in place slightly less than that because, like, TenSoon is like, hey, I was here. I helped write the contracts based on the first contract. So don't go telling me what the contract says.
Right, because at the dawn of their existence, they didn't have the contract. They were being controlled by Mistborns, and that's why they created the contract.
Yeah.
You just imagine, like, after the Lord Ruler fell, they're just like, oh, okay, we probably need to amend the contracts again. And Hunfu was just in there, like, writing, just like, do not kill Daddy.
Yeah.
But TenSoon's argument is that he didn't break his contract. He was serving the greater contract, the first contract. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? That was with the Lord Ruler, and he's dead. And he's like, yeah, but the first contract isn't dead. Vin is the heir to the Lord Ruler because she killed him, so now she's our mother.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I feel
That's
like he's
a bold
waiting
move,
for, like,
Cotton. We'll see if that pays off for him.
Exactly. He's waiting for that, like, dramatic, operatic sting that Jamie just did, and everyone just, like, stares.
Yeah. He's like, well, I guess that didn't work.
And they're like, Kanpar's like, this is ridiculous. Like, I expected rationalizations, lies, but this is just insane.
He's like, that's my bag, baby.
TenSoon's like, dude, you haven't been outside recently, have you? Have you even left the homeland in the last century at all? Do you understand what's happening out there? Let's see, ruin has come. The life will end. The time that the world bringers spoke of. Perhaps the time of the capital R resolution is here. There's
Another capital word.
Another one of those things Joe
Basically,
loves where there's a capital word not explained.
Yeah. I'm sure it's like Ragnarok or something, you know?
We'll get the answer in the last chapter, Joe. Don't worry.
It's
I mean,
funny
if we
because
don't,
it's
I'm
true.
just going to burn my Kindle, you know?
And finally he's like,
So he talks about the world bringers here, and he's like, wait, you guys just go and hang out with the terracemen sometimes?
yeah, they have a memory of the world bringers. We learned what was the last book, how that was like basically the forerunners of the keepers. So they knew those guys apparently, or at least have a record of what they talked about. Sazed would want to meet these people. Maybe
And
not
like
right
the
now.
Lord Ruler allowed them to have that information after he spent so long getting rid of it everywhere else.
Well, I mean, if the first generation was around 1,000 years ago, I mean, you can't take it out of their brains, I guess. Although he created them, so maybe, I don't know. Huh.
Yeah.
And finally, TenSoon's like, "Don't you want everyone to know why I'm really here?" And Kampar's like, "Don't make us do this. Don't force." And he just declares, he's like, "I told her our secret. She knows how to control us, and I'm sure she's told other people. And do you know why I did it? Because she deserves to know. Because she's our mom now. The trust is hers. We cannot create new blessings or new Kandra on our own. So without her, we have nothing." And Kampar's like, "No, enough. We're done." But TenSoon has gotten what he wanted. All the younger Kandra have heard what he had to say, but it seems less impressive now than in his brain, because he's like, it felt inadequate to just scream like some raving human. And he's like, "Judgment, it's time for judgment." And he's thinking, I'm done, and they're gonna put me in a hole, but maybe some people will believe what I said, and they'll go out and find Vin instead of just sitting in the caves while the world ends around us. And so they're waiting to see the first generation. Okay, that's who he's thinking about. Maybe the first generation will see this, because they're looking up at the alcoves where the first generation watches, and this is their chance to stay his execution, basically. And they say nothing. There's no movement. There's no sound from up in the alcoves.
Yeah, I really feel like the first generation are dead, and the second's like this Kanpar dickhead and his buddies are in charge.
That's exactly how I feel. I'm like, they gotta be dead.
So you think they're like Weekend at Bernieing the firsts?
100%.
It's got to be interesting to do with blob monsters with crystal bones.
That or they've got a whole bunch of cardboard cutouts just sitting.
Cardboard cutouts.
Or they've got their own Allomancer in the back who's controlling their bodies that way, and turns out, they've actually also broken Kanpar's, also told this one Allomancer what to do, and this guy's just puppeting the first generation for him.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say it was like they gave them bones of like metal, and now they're dead, and the Allomancer's like pushing the metal around in their bodies to make them move, but it got even darker.
Also fucked up.
Also good.
But yeah, the first generation has ignored your plea, third. So we will make judgment on their behalf, and your sentence will occur in 1 month's time. And TenSoon's like, wait, what? A month? Okay. And he leaves thinking perhaps his words would inspire his people to action, but he would probably never know. And that's the end of our chapters for this week. So, predicaments. I guess we'll start with Joe, since he probably didn't have anything.
So something's going on with TenSoon. I still predict like a arbiter-like thing where the second's like, okay, we're gonna stay your execution, but you're gonna work for us. We need you to do this. Kill Vin, like we talked about last episode or something. I think that'd be pretty cool. Other than that, I predict that I should not drink tequila before we record next time.
Yeah.
Because I'm still kind of drunk. But no, I really like where all the chapters so far and everything we've read in this third book. I would say just the first 11 chapters of this book are better than anything we read in the last book. So it's good. It's good so far. I'm really enjoying it.
Okay, Jamie, what do you have? Oh, sorry, that was a noise. What do you have prediction-wise for us today?
So I predict that Ulrian's going to be as useless as I think she's going to be. I just can't stand her. Anyway, TenSoon, I don't think he's going to die. I think it's a lot to go into the Kandra backstory, and now to drop in that Vin's their new mum. I don't know if it's a case of maybe he'll escape, maybe his adoptive daughter will help him get out somehow. TenSoon made a comment that he shouldn't have been able to recognize her because she's got a new true body. Maybe that someone will get him a true body, and they won't recognize him. Maybe, I don't know.
That would be pretty impressive if you could just sneak out wearing a different body. And it's like, I'm not the Kandra that you imprisoned.
I mean, literally, the last book was all about him impersonating another Kandra, and no one noticed. So
yeah,
that's true. But they weren't Kandra also, so that might be.
So that's it. And he still was able to recognize. I can't remember her name, and I don't have the book in front of me. the daughter.
Elon. Or Milan. I don't know how to say it.
Milan. Yeah, so maybe they can recognize him, so that could just be full of it anyway. But I think there's now a lot more to this story with the religion, the Church of the Survivor, and how the Kandra will play into that. I like the idea of, them maybe sending him out on a contract to get rid of Vin, but I don't think he would do it or could do it at this point. He's kind of made his bed and
Yeah.
that's mum. I'm not going to go kill mum after dad just got killed. Like, that's not going to work out. But yes, I think that will sort of be how it ends up there. And I had a bit of a crackpot theory. I'm going to give a crackpot one a go because everyone else has had one. So the Mist are trying to convert as many people as possible because then they'll use the metal in the Earth and just pull, sorry, not Earth, the metal in the planet Scadrial, and just pull Scadrial away from the sun.
Ooh. You just have to
Maybe
have a bunch of
need
people
all
line
of
up on one side of the planet and pull.
Yeah, and just pull.
Okay.
That's how they're going to fix the problem.
That's
Cool.
That's quite honestly the best theory that anyone's had for how we're going to fix the problem because we haven't had any other theories.
No problem fixing theories for us. The world's end is nigh.
I feel like it might be a little strange for them to be like, you have to go kill Vin when he's just said, Vin is our new mother and we should be loyal to her. But maybe they're like, you have to prove your loyalty to us by killing this person that you claim should be over us.
Yeah.
And I
call
feel
it
like
blasphemous.
he still, like, his loyalty wouldn't lie there anyway. I think he respects Vin too much now to work against her.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, they're friends now. It's,
But that's all I've got.
Okay. Dak?
Breeze and or Orion are going to die.
Let it be
I have
Orion.
nothing to base this off. I just have a gut feeling.
Okay.
Yep.
Just sometime during the book or like soon? Or...
Yeah. I feel like, all right, they're here. That's still got to be relevant to the story. I feel like Orion hasn't really done too much aside from convince Set to join the army at the end of the last book.
Orion
So I feel like
is going to march through all of the ash, and her 7 petticoats are going to get too dirty, and she's just going to break down and cry, and she'll just die in the ash. She'll just get buried. That's how she's going to die.
Just get buried crying about her dress. That's so fucking...
Or
I love it.
After
what she said.
Takes control, after she takes control of the Colossus is going to break free and then eat her.
They're just going to go,
Attack
you know
on
what,
Titan
I hate you.
style.
I hate you.
Yeah.
Club her to death.
Another theory I had was, so I think Human, the Colossus, is going to, is going to play a larger part in the story because they're going to reach an understanding about what the Colossus need and Vin's going to find some other way to provide to them and maybe find some way to, she might use the power of creation to, basically unfuck them so they're not just basically kill everything in sight. And Human might be her key to doing that. I also think that when I agree that pretty much what Joe said on what's going to happen to TenSoon. I think that he is going to send out to basically be the arbiter for the second generation. And as Jamie was saying, he'll be set to kill Vin as a test of the loyalty, but he's instead going to want to help Vin. And then he's going to come along and find out, like, Vin's got a Colossus hanging around. It's like, did you replace me as your non-human sidekick? And then it's going to be like a total... It's kind of like Donkey and Puss in Boots to Vin's Shrek.
Well, okay, so in the first book, she had, like, Sazed as her, like, manservant. And then she had a Kandra as her, like,
she was like
dog
she was like Purple Rain
assistant. And now she has Human. That's she's really trading down.
Because, like,
I feel like.
Yeah.
But I just want to see the conversation between Human and TenSoon because Human will just get really pouty because TenSoon can turn into a human and Human can't do that.
Vin's gonna show up with her Colossus buddy and be like, "I'm Morris Day, and this is my tubby manservant."
Jerome. Yep. I wonder if the Colossus have knowledge of or any respect for the Kandra as opposed to humans.
I feel like it's something we can explore.
We don't really know that at this point. Okay.
Yeah.
I now.
You putting that out there, bro? You trying to trip us up? You trying to get us to think about things? You teasing us?
Well, I want to see Dax meeting between TenSoon and Human now. That's gonna be awesome.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that would be sweet. He's
But
like,
I
but I
think-
could turn
yeah, I
into a dog. She's like, seen it.
Can you beat?
But yeah, no,
Kola?
I think by the end, Human is gonna have like a noble sacrifice moment for Vin. He'll get over his hatred in some way and sacrifice himself, and Vin will say, "You've learned what it means to be human," or something like that, and then he dies.
Aw.
Aw,
Right.
it's gonna make me
And then
cry.
he'll be like, yeah. And then he'll be like, hold the door.
And he'll be like, I just want to say, I always hated you. I always hated you the most. And then,
Hurry up and die, you fucking prick.
My only regret is that I have skinitis.
yeah. Okay. I like this. This is some good stuff.
Yep. Like Brandon will find some way to make us shed a tear for a Kolos.
Okay. I believe Brandon could do it. He can make you cry for the Kolos.
Never.
Joe's like, I don't cry. I had my tear ducts removed. That would be bad, actually. You wouldn't be able to moisturize your eyes.
Yeah, that
Anyway.
would not be good.
Sorry, random sidebar. This week, we still haven't gotten to chapter 12, so I'm leaving Angela's email in the box. We got one from Todd. I won't read all of it because some of it would be is more for me. He does reference Dak at one point and one of his theories, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it is funny because he's like, I thought that Dax, D-A-X, and then in parentheses, is it D-A-C-K? I just like that D-A-X would be Dak. That's
Yeah, just DAC.
yeah. But anyway, he says, as always, I love the podcast. You do such a great job editing that I would never know it wasn't one continuous recording. If you ever decide to do a Patreon, then the full unedited recordings would be great incentive if you still have them. I don't want to give
Nobody
wanna
wants
give-
that.
mistaken impressions. It is mostly just one straight thing. I go through and I pull out long pauses. I pull out lots of ums and I pull out lots of you knows, especially for me. I apparently say you know a lot. Like there's sentences where I say it like 3 times and I'm like, nope, cut. Now no one knows that I can't talk right. So
I'm sure you pull out a lot of likes as well from both of us.
yeah, likes, a lot of those, and
From all of us, I think.
from everybody has at least some of all 3 of those.
Is that just our age group? Because I don't feel that people younger than me say like that a lot.
I don't know.
I think
That's
some
interesting.
younger people do.
I also pull out when we have to stop for 5 minutes because of technical difficulties, which happened a couple times in the last episode.
Usually my fault.
So you wouldn't enjoy the unedited recordings. There's very little
You sure
actual
wouldn't.
content cut. I think I cut.
There's a whole lot of people talking over each other and they're just going, sorry, you go.
Yeah, that too.
That's true.
And I'll cut some of my stuff. Like I think last time one of the sections I read from the epigraph, I'm like, hey, this is interesting, and I read it, and everyone's like, says absolutely nothing, and then we move on to something completely different. And I was like, okay, there's like 2 minutes that I can just cut out of me talking about something I don't care about. So yeah, the unedited recordings would not be interesting. So it's
Believe me, there's a reason that we're making these cuts. It's because if the cuts weren't there, you would turn the podcast off.
So anyway, but Todd also says I love the new song for this book, and it strangely fits the feel of the book as well. And I agree. That's why I picked it. I think it works really well with the book.
I still haven't listened to it.
You should totally listen to it. So thank you, Todd, for your email. I appreciate the positive vibes always. And that is the only thing we had this week.
You started out with that saying something about, like he said about my theory, and then we got talking about my name, and then where were we going with that?
Oh no, I wasn't gonna read that because he's like, hey, Dak said this thing, and
Yeah.
here's spoilers that are related to what Dak said. So-
Yeah, he's basically trying to
okay.
tease you is what's happening.
No,
Yeah,
not
okay.
really. I just wanted to be like read the part about his name because I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
And then I couldn't say, well, he says Dak without explaining the context for why he mentioned Dak.
Mhm.
So it was a whole. Anyway.
So cut this part in.
No.
This following part, what I'm about to say.
Oh, okay.
Just remember, guys, if you want to be named as one of the misting crew of the Sanderlanche podcast, leave a 5-star review and some comments, and I will induct you into the misting Sanderlanche crew.
Hey, if you don't think we're worth 5 stars, just leave a review. I'm okay with.
No, 5 stars only.
So for next time,
Your review has to be 5 stars for you to get a Mystic name.
I listened to a podcast that they read their reviews like that same way at the end of episodes, and I left that podcast a 4-star review because like they're really good. I have these personal issues with them, but that's really like my issue. It's not their issue, but that's why I'm making 4 stars. But I think people really like this podcast. Is I read this long review like that, and so they read that 4-star review, and it was apparently so upsetting for one of the hosts that they got this 4-star review and read it, that after that they were like, so we're from now on, like an episode or 2 later, they were like, from now on we're only going to be reading 5-star reviews.
Yep, that's how you do it.
Issues.
Whoa.
And I was like, geez, I like broke somebody on this show. I feel bad now. I want real opinions, the positive and the negative, so that we know what people think we can improve on.
I understand. But the reward for being on to giving a 5-star review is you get on the Mystic crew.
Anyway.
Yeah, Joe's not saying you can't leave a 4-star review. You just don't get inducted.
Did you make notes about the ones who got one before yet, so that you don't forget them?
No, it's up to you to keep track of what you're doing. No, I'll go back to the episodes and listen and write down the names and what I gave them.
Someday we'll add on the website like a box that's like, here's the Misting crew.
Yeah, I mean, I've been busy. Okay, I haven't even finished. I still haven't finished the spook wrap. It's still sitting on my desk at work. Just haven't gotten there.
I like the idea that you're out of the office and somebody walks by. Hey, what's this on Joe's desk?
Oh, let me tell you,
hey,
that happens
Dizzle,
a lot. People, like, I'll find out that people found out about stuff I have on my desk because they'll be like, they'll casually mention it in a conversation. They're like, I didn't know you wrote stuff like that, and I'm just like, what were you looking at my what?
No privacy.
Yeah, no privacy. People just go through your stuff when you're not at the job.
For next time, we're reading 4 chapters again, chapters 12, 13, 14, and 15. And random fun fact, the next 2 episodes after that will be 5 chapters each.
Ooh.
Because there's lots of really short chapters in those. There's like 4 short chapters in that 5 chapter bunch. So
God damn.
But I think it's a result of having we've got now like different people in different places doing different things, and so I think we're gonna get like a little bit over here, a little bit over there. Because before we didn't have people that were really split up that much. Like Vin would go off to a party and then she comes back to the crew. But now we have TenSoon off like all on his own in a place that we have no idea where it is. And we had Breeze and Saze in a completely different place than the rest of the crew, but they came back this chapter. So anyway, 12 through 15 is the gist of that. Music by Miracle of Sound. I'm just going to get that in there right now while I'm thinking about it.
Nice.
And yeah, so in addition to rating us on like Apple Podcasts or other places, I've looked a few other places to see if we got like ratings, but a lot of places don't have the same kind of rating system as Apple, so that's the easiest one to look at. But not everybody listens to us on Apple, so not everyone could leave a review there. Anyway,
so like us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah. That's where I was going
like
with that. Facebook, Instagram,
like
Twitter.
Us on YouTube as well.
YouTube now.
Videos.
Yep, that's true. We're everywhere. You can't get rid of us. That's how it goes.
We are not behind the couch.
We're like relatives that
Speak
moved
for
into
yourself. your
house and now they won't go away.
You don't know I'm not behind a couch. Oh my gosh, I forgot to mention we got this reply because for the first episode of this book, Joe had his thing where he's like, "There's lots of tasty knowledge nuggets in this episode." And so when I wrote up the summary for the episode for what got posted, I was like, Joe is gleefully chowing down on tasty knowledge nuggets. And so we got
wait.
Yeah.
Tasty Knowledge Nuggets, new band name, I call it.
We got a reply on Twitter.
First song, right about the Peruvian penguins.
Yep.
True.
Penguins right there. It all goes together. We got a reply on Twitter after that episode went up from Matt, and it says ... knowledge nuggets. It made me laugh so hard, and I responded back to him. I'm like, those are his words, his crazy words.
Yep. They don't call me Joe the crazy guy for nothing. Wait.
That's
Do they?
not. No. Well, not to your face
Who's
anyway.
they?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, some days maybe, you don't know.
Is this why people are going through your desk at work?
Yeah, exactly. That's what
Sure.
it is. Okay, thank you everyone for listening. Come back next week for more of the Sanderlanche podcast.
Wait a minute. We
What?
haven't even seen Spook this book yet.
No, yeah. Lestiborn's be whack, yo. He's tripping. I mean, we haven't seen Ham either. They just talked about him in one chapter.
Yeah, they talk about him. It
did
just
mention
occurred to
him.
me. I was like, wait a minute. Where is our punching bag?
He's not showing up.
He'll walk in.
ever.
He'll walk in with a sideways cap. He's like, "Wuzzing to the Wizzle, it's your boy Spook Dizzle."
It's gonna be the very last chapter, and he's gonna walk in just in time to become the hero of ages. He's gonna be like, "Hey, what's this power laying around? I guess I'll take that." And then-
Tasty power.
Turns out they left him at the bottom of Critic Shore. He's just been eating the cans the whole time.
That would be amazing. He's like, yeah, somebody's gonna come let me out, right? Right? I have no idea what I was doing before you. Okay, so
You were about to sign
Thanks
off.
for listening. See you next time.
thanks for listening,
Noticeably
everybody.
FAT, rewind the track.
Just wasn't to the time of next. Just yeah, that's it.
As the towers of steel and stone crumble to dust, the foundations of our hope begin to rust. Choking fear, screaming sound, as a reaper comes to ground. You turn to face it down because you must. And when